This is a short video on the history of how germ phobia, germ hysteria that rules modern germ theory, the one that has you sanitizing your hands every 10 seconds and giving your body antibiotics that kill off billions of pieces of you. You call them cells, but what is that? A cell is part of you. Antibiotics, bleach, chlorine, pasteurization. Your species is psychotic, is nuts, is bizarre. And it's understandable why you feel that way. The human mind is constantly looking to shift blame, and you've been programmed by your parents, grandparents, family, doctors, scientists, medics, industry, and pop culture into thinking that salmonella or E. coli or any of these perfectly natural, perfectly normal, and perfectly healthful, with exception to the microbes that are produced by governments and heavily funded NGOs, H1N1, these things that have characteristics of human tampering, weaponization. We're not talking about those. I think the body can handle those too, but that's not something we have to discuss. That stuff shouldn't be happening at all. If you're paying taxes to fund weaponization of microbes, then you've got a major priority and you're technically doing it to yourself and your fellow human beings. So that's a different problem entirely. What we're talking about is anything that existed in 3500 BC. Okay? Or BCE if you want to be progressive. So no, there were no, as far as we're aware, there were no labs to weaponize bacteria. What you had, bacteria, fungi, yeasts, um, gut microbes that we call parasites, but which I prefer to use the term microfauna. Everything that we had internally, everything that we were exposed to, are things that were created through the action reaction mechanism, the lockstep way that biology advances. Epigenetics, epigenomics, mutations from probably cosmic rays. I'm not really sure about that one, but likely. Your genome is 85% viral remnant. Transposons, those are things that your ancestors came into contact with and survived and passed on to you. You are literally a virus fabrication plant. When your body realizes that it has some sort of buildup or toxicity or blockage, it accesses your genome, produces, synthesizes, fabricates from the food elements that you have in your body, the carbohydrates, the fats, the proteins, the sorry, my mind is blanking at the moment. Vitamins and minerals and biophotons. Your body fabricates phages, fabricates viruses out of the transposons in your genome. Science isn't going to back me up. I'm sorry. Mainstream medicine isn't going to back me up on that. But that's okay, because that's what it means to have vision, to have sight, to be able to see. Someday the truth will win out, and you will understand that you have the ability to produce viruses and phages on demand, specifically nuanced to the situation you are experiencing. So if you have a tumor because you drank too much alcohol, then your body's going to do things to deal with that. If you have vegetable resins from hydrogenated fats and rapeseed oil that you like to call cotton or canola oil, soybean oil with extracted with hexane and bizarre chemicals. If you have a buildup in your system, if that crystallizes, it's going to, your body is going to fabricate a virus in response to that. Your body is hyper intelligent, far more intelligent than any of us consciously are. It is amazing that we stay alive through high fructose corn syrup, through glyphosate, through your body needs 2 grams or less of sugar a month to do its thing in terms of biochemicals, in terms of bioprocesses. Do you know how much sugar is in a packet of sugar at a coffee shop? At the average coffee shop? About 5 grams. My uncle, my sweet, dear, wonderful uncle, puts 4 or 5 of those in his coffee. Okay? The average can of soda contains between 40 and 60 grams of sugar or high fructose corn syrup. An apple, an apple contains, I believe apples are typically around 50, somewhere between 40 and 60% sugar. So if you have an apple that weighs 50 grams, 25 of that is sugar. In one setting. And you parents are stuffing this into your kids all day long like it's a good thing. Certainly better than fruit roll-ups and candy and Mountain Dew and things like that. But your body has limits for things and it has reasons for things. And when you put these into your body and it causes blockages, it also can get you out of the woods. Unfortunately, whoops. Unfortunately, there is always a price to pay for that. So when your body does start remedying it, you get a detox experience. You get vomiting, you get diarrhea, nausea, warts, fatigue. You get pretty much anything you can think of, infections. But these are necessary rites of passage to get out of the hole that you dug yourself into. If you had never eaten those toxins, your body wouldn't have to do that and you wouldn't experience that and then be blaming them on microbes. So here's basically what has happened. Microbes have been with us since the dawn of time. They are integral and not just not harmful, but absolutely vital to everything you do. Your digestion, the cleansing of your system, the management of hormones, everything revolves around microbes. They're good. It's very rare to meet a bad microbe. And if we had the time and we had the wherewithal, I would be the guinea pig for that. You can introduce in whatever means you want, as long as there's no synthetic chemicals, you can introduce whatever microbes you want into this system right here. You want to dope me with E. coli, salmonella, dengue fever? I'm sorry, not dengue fever. The things that cause these things. Do you want to watch a deer tick bite me for, to completion, fill up and then drop off, and see if I get Lyme's disease? See if Borrelia, which is very similar to my last name, which is kind of funny. Borrelia is the bacterium allegedly in, or parasite, I believe it's a bacteria, in the tick that is blamed for Lyme disease. but I've been bitten more times than you can think of, and I don't fear them. And same thing with my dogs. We don't fear them because we keep our systems clean. So whatever those deer ticks introduce, it doesn't matter. So we've been with these things forever, since the dawn of time. They are good and normal and healthy, and all creatures have ways to balance them. You will find, and the science isn't in on this yet, so I'm going to make some generalizations that will need ferreting out, refining, chasing down. Microbes are not problems, and every creature has a way to detox them, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say detox, has a way to balance them. You'll find wolves and dogs and bears and wildcats and birds, ruminants such as deer and goats and sorry, not goats, deer and elk and cattle and goats, and then other creatures like pigs. They all have elements in their diets, or at least accessible to use allopathically, meaning when we had our cows, if they were not feeling well, um, they would go off and they would pick a specific herb that they wouldn't normally include in their diet. The minty stuff, think aromatic plants for them. But aromatic plants in general for any species, wolves and dogs, whenever they need to balance their system out, they'll go and they'll eat grass. They'll go and they will find herbs, and they don't do it randomly. They do it because they're sensing a need to balance their system out. The problem is that there's no place on Earth, basically, without some element of human pollution. And so we don't know presently. There's no way to just go out and look and find out what's normal in terms of detoxes. So, but basically, at least in my own experience, it's virtually nothing. If I keep my system clean and eat only my raw ancestral foods, meat, eggs, marrow, fish roe, seafood, and then include monthly, or I should say probably weekly, but at least monthly, some ginger, some raw herbs that they're everywhere. Every plant out there is a giant, is a being of various chemicals. That's what plants are. They are fantastic at producing chemicals, and they're constantly producing chemicals in response to their environment. But most of them are loaded with antibiotics. They're loaded with things that tend to balance our microbes out, which is also what makes them not feasible to be eaten in large quantities. But that's okay, because guess what? Coconuts and meat and eggs and marrow are delicious and nourishing and satisfying, and they don't have the drawbacks that eating plants do. The anti-nutrients, the enzyme inhibitors, the oxalates, the hormone disruptors like soy estrogens and things like that. So we've been with germs for a long time. Then, somewhere in the last 4,000 years, an element of the world came along that likes to invert things. And that element sort of hit its apex in terms of shifting the world's ideas when Pasteur rammed his BS down everyone's throat. Antoine Béchamp was his contemporary, and he said, it's all about the environment, and that's what epigenetics and epigenomics is, and that's where the proof lies. I don't need to say any more after this in order to prove this. You, humanity, need to study epigenomics, epigenetics, they're the same thing, because the smoking gun lies in there. Germs are not your problem. Research Antoine Béchamp and realize that synthetics and cooked foods are your problem.